How did the barnstormers find their spark? The thing that drove them to take to the air and try crazy things, pushing their flying machine to the limits to see what it could do.
Stop producing enough lift to keep it going. The nose comes down. The wings start to rotate. He's in the one-turn spin. There's 1.5. There's 2 turns, 2.5. 3 turns, 3.5. 4 turns, and he recovers in a vertical dive. Ladies and gentlemen, that's Bill Blank, and that is the tail spin.
Dr. Bill Blank got to experience a little of that drive firsthand. His tailwheel checkout was performed by a real barnstormer who learned to fly in the Jenny. The fellow who gave him the checkout had the pilot's license number 1000. How does anyone decide that they want to try aerobatics? Perhaps they start by looking to the skies and daydreaming.
Well, I guess I've been interested in airplanes since I was a little kid. I don't know why I was interested in airplanes. I grew up near Scott Air Force Base, so you can see the airplanes flying over all the time because there was a lot of traffic back when I was little. There's something in my kindergarten report card that I would get in trouble for when we were supposed to take naps, get up and run out to the window to look at airplanes flying over. So I guess this has been going on for a long time.
Perhaps these future aviators started on the ground, getting ground training of a different sort.
It turned out to be fun. And I didn't have a problem with air sickness, and hanging upside down probably didn't bother me at all. And the reason for that is when I was young, my dad had built a swing set and it had a trapeze, and I was always hanging upside down. So the hanging upside down for aerobatics was no big deal.
From the playground to the skies, from the barnstormers to modern aerobatic performers, somewhere in there, that spark is fueled and grows until it becomes a reality. For Dr. Bill Blank, that spark was first erected at medicine and his dream of becoming a doctor. But later, he rediscovered his fascination with airplanes and the fire once again burned.
When I was in medical school, there was a resident whose dad owned a debonair. And one time he offered to take me for a ride in Cleveland from International Airport Hopkins at Cleveland. So I got an airplane ride, and I guess that's what lit the spark. And so then I guess Judy and I talked about it, and I took my $5 Cessna intro ride. And I guess in my mind, if I could figure out how to afford it, there was no doubt I was going to learn to fly, even though I had no reason to learn to fly except for the fun.
It wasn't a career that was planned, but sometimes life has a way of pulling two branches of life together.
Somebody asked me if I would do a demonstration. I got a waiver. And back then it wasn't very complicated. And I got the waiver, and I must have done the pancake breakfast, and that just kind of morphed a little bit more and more into the air shows. And the other thing that happened about the same time, people were asking me to teach them how to do a loop or teach them how to do a roll. And I remember talking to Pete Myers about that, and he said that he didn't like this idea of going out and showing somebody how to do a loop in about 3 minutes or a roll and then finding out that they fall out of it and get killed. And so I figured, well, you know, if I'm going to teach somebody how to do this, I ought to be a flight instructor. I taught about 1,300 hours of aerobatics, mostly 10 hours courses. And I did it just really for the enjoyment. You know, it kind of gave me a reason to go to the airport. And somehow the air shows kind of evolved out of that.
While he had a love for flight, being a doctor was always his professional passion. He found a way to do both while also helping others, which was the perfect path for him.
I wasn't going to do any flight physicals. I was just going to retire. I wasn't mad at anybody. I didn't have any. And so somebody asked me, "You're still an AMA, aren't you?" Well, would you mind, could you do a few flight physicals? So I looked into it, and back, I guess it's still true. If you do 10 this year, they'll let you do flight physicals next year. So I figured, well, I can manage probably to do 10 flight physicals a year. You know, that's one a month with 2 months off. And the one thing about it, one thing that was kind of better about being a retired physician, AME, is you don't have 40 people in the waiting room. I helped several guys work through the system and get certified, and it kind of makes you feel good. I mean, at least from my point of view, when I went to medical school, it looked to me like be a good job, being a good job a doctor, and you'd help people too, and kind of a nice feeling when you help somebody.
And it's always been about helping for Dr. Bill Blank. He spent a career as an ophthalmologist. He was a flight instructor and gave about 1,500 hours of aerobatic instruction. Flew aerobatics in air shows, holding a surface air show waiver for 28 years, and has just under 200 performances under his belt. He is an aviation medical examiner and gives medical presentations on ophthalmology and aviation. He's also been very active in the Boy Scouts, having earned the status of Eagle Scout and helping others to do the same throughout his many years in the program. He's earned the Silver Beaver Leaders Award. One thing that shines through with Bill is that he's truly driven to help others, in the air and on the ground.